Another place where the rolling ball idea comes into play is when the surfaces that you're filleting themselves have a smaller radius, for instance, right here where I'm pointing, than the fillet that you want to apply. So in this case, I want to apply a fillet, let's say that's radius 3, and if I look at an example of the rolling balls as they travel along, they're fine up until they get to that tight radius right there. If I look closely at that, you can see that the radius 3 ball just doesn't fit in that little tight corner there. And so, as a consequence, when the fillet is created, it makes a bit of a mess right there. You can see that it's self-intersecting and that there's no way, as a rolling ball, to resolve that corner. So it has to be dealt with. One way or another, you have to deal with it if this is the condition that you run into. Either you could make this radius of this surface large enough, if that's feasible, or another way to handle it is to use a variable radius fillet, where that rolling ball travels along at the nominal radius of 3 and then gets smaller as it gets into this tight corner and then gets bigger again. Right? That's a variable radius fillet. So that's one way to handle that. And again, Rhino has tools for that, which we'll cover hopefully shortly. And that's a good way if aesthetically that works, obviously, with your design. Another way to handle that is to repair that corner with a separate surface. So we can keep our radius 3 going up until that self-intersection would occur on each side. So I have two surfaces here, and build by hand, so to speak, a new surface that takes care of that transition. At that point, this highlighted surface is not a rolling ball fillet anymore. Still has an arc cross-section, but it no longer quite fits that rolling ball idea because it's just a custom-made thing to kind of bridge that gap. There are a lot of different ways to handle those, but that's probably the two most common, is a variable radius and basically a hand repair on that fillet. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea of what fillets are and the whole concept of a rolling ball fillet. You'll see in the future when we look at the actual Rhino commands, fillet edge, fillet surf, variable fillets, you actually get some control over how those rails, that is the edges of the fillets, are generated, and we'll outline how that works in those clips later. Thanks for listening.